The tensions between Europe and Russia are at an all-time high, with European leaders scrambling to reinforce Ukrainian defense amid the growing uncertainty over the US support under Donald Trump. The US president has made its stand very clear. The Washington will not be Europe's safety net, and Zelensky's victory dream at all will not be supported. And so it is leaving the EU nations in a precarious situation. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has pledged his full backing for Ukraine, aligning closely with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. However, French President Emmanuel Macron remains cautious because he knows a Pandora box is waiting to be unleashed if it happens. He has issued a warning, a grim one, that seizing the frozen Russian assets can set a dangerous precedent, one that might destabilize the global financial confidence as Europe struggles to navigate the crisis. The divide between pragmatism and bold action threatens to deepen further. The recent tensions between UK and France have flared over whether the $350 billion in frozen Russian assets should be seized and redirected towards purchasing American defense equipment, an effort to keep the US engaged in European security amid Trump's wavering support for Ukraine, and then giving those weapons to Ukraine. Yes, that is the plan European Union and UK were planning all along. The UK has long supported confiscating the Russian state assets, a stance recently reinforced by the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The British officials argue that since these funds are already frozen and cannot be returned to Russia unless it pays for war reparations, using them for Ukrainian defense is a logical step. However, French President Emmanuel Macron, along with Germany and the European Central Bank, opposes the plan. Macron has warned that seizing the sovereign asset would set a dangerous precedent, deterring foreign investment in the Eurozone from key players like China and Saudi Arabia. Speaking alongside Donald Trump last week, Macron bluntly stated, "These assets do not belong to us. They are frozen. If the end of negotiations with Russia happen, they are given to us. Super." Macron has also been a vocal advocate for reducing the European dependence on US weaponry. He believes that Russian funds to buy American arms will strengthen the US defense firm at Europe's expense, undermining the long-term effort to create an independent European defense industry. But this debate has intensified as Trump has threatened to pull out the American support for Ukraine. Some European leaders see that Russian asset proposal could be a nice way to keep Trump engaged, an incentive that can convince him not to abandon the Ukraine entirely. The UK argues that the plan will bind the US closer to European defense, particularly if American arm manufacturers benefit directly. Inside the EU, countries like Poland, Estonia and the Czech Republic fully support the asset seizure, while others prefer only the interest generated for military aid. Meanwhile, Macron also has a bee in his bonnet that this asset seizure might ignite a flare or a war with Russia. And so, he remains focused on long-term European self-reliance, proposing a defensive spending increase to 3.5% of the GDP and exploring alternative funding sources, such as the EU Cohesion Fund or a joint defense bond. But with Trump's stance unpredictable on Ukraine and Europe scrambling to fill the gap, the fate of the Russian assets is likely to remain a major point of contention for the coming few days. Now, as tensions rise, Macron fears Europe is inching closer to a war, wary of reckless moves that could spiral out of control. Yet, Zelensky also remains adamant, pushing for stronger action and demanding the seizure of Russian assets to sustain Ukraine's fight. Meanwhile, UK is adding fuel to the fire, firmly backing Kiev despite the risk. At the same time, Trump's unpredictability is serving as a catalyst, forcing European leaders into frantic decision-making.